Oh boy.
Woo!
Hit the D-pad.
It sure is.
Rick.
Hi, Peter.
And we definitely. I looked at the marker that indicated when the last episode was supposed to end a minute in advance, and then completely put it out of mind, and it caught up, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, we're there." Whoops.
It's fine.
So that was probably an awkward end to the last episode. Fog coming to consume us all. Why did we go back into the village?
Talked at you until the darkness happened.
Oh, I selected the wrong thing. That's right.
Yes,
I actually do remember that.
Yep.
Selected the wrong location. Was like, never mind. Don't worry about it. But yeah.
We may have even done a re-intro.
It's possible. Very possible.
Here-ish.
Right about 3, 2, 1 there. And this is the D-pad, and we're playing Pokemon Legends Arceus.
And yeah, that's Rick, and I'm Peter.
Yeah.
And those are leftover stamps.
Yeah. Those were our hole markers.
Oh, yes.
Because we were having a hard time locating...
The holes we checked.
Yeah, I think for Wisps, Because it wasn't even for Zeke. I think Wisps were the thing that we were stuck on.
Yeah, we were down to like one last Wisp, and we were checking those holes, and then we came back in another session, and it was actually in this one spot. You remembered it being a weird one to find in your game, your personal game. You were just like, I know where it is.
Yep. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait a second. Yep,
Oh,
I
and
got
C-Dude knew where it was.
Yes. Well, that was the one in the Coronet Highlands.
Oh, okay.
Because that was the one that was up on the cliff. So, yeah, I think that was the one that I was also like, oh, right, yeah. Because I'd called it before we were done looking. I picked the wrong spot to be like, yeah, there was one right here, and missed the spot that it actually was in.
Right.
That was embarrassing.
This one and that one were both really obvious if you came from the right approach.
Yes.
I'd blocked from 300 of the degrees of the circle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just kind of like, fine. I don't know why. I think it's just because you naturally want to go from high to low. Gives you the best vantage points. You're rarely going to be going from low to high if you can help it.
Yep. And both of those were approach from below, and you get a good vantage.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember what our deal here was. Because we whoop, yep, and that was where I was like, fine.
I'll use the normal mechanic.
I'll use the Dr. Seuss character. Get on up
It does
there.
look so goofy.
It's also called Sneasler, which in my head, it's like the Lorax. It's the Sneasler.
Okay.
Like it sounds like, I guess, you know why? Because
I am the Sneasler. I speak for this cliff.
Ironically, I'm thinking of the wrong character from the story, the Lorax, because the Lorax has a character called the Once-ler.
Yes, there is a Once-ler.
And that's who I think my brain is like latching onto the most is, the Sneasler, the Once-ler.
The Once-ler.
How high I can I climb? But yeah, at this point we're now fully into like, well, I guess we're getting a lot of bags territory. That's right. Yeah, we gave over the bean cakes and stuff, and Mai was like, okay, now go back to the village. I'll see you later. I'm like, what was that all about? Not a bag.
I'm just trying to find some original Seuss art of what the Once-ler looks like.
I think you only ever see his arm with a glove.
The Once-ler.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of people decided
thirsty people in the world.
Yeah, because the animated
they like
movie,
long arms.
The animated movie made people get real into the Once-ler for some reason, and it got thirsty and it got bad.
I don't know why. He's lanky. He's got a round head. He looks like he's like a Duplo character in that movie.
I think it's just because he's a lanky villain. That just kind of is a thing. Loki had the same thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's a misunderstood ? Lanky villain guy."
Lanky villain guy. But like Tom Hiddleston is
a
beautiful man.
I was gonna say an unambiguously handsome, beautiful man. Like there are very few people who are like Tom Hiddleston. No, thank you. Like I think a more likely one, not to start like comparing actual people's faces. I don't mean to go down this road, but like I think Benedict Cumberbatch is one that I think is a little bit more not controversial, a little more contested, I guess. Where some people are like super into Benedict Cumberbatch, and other people are like, I don't know, the cheekbones are like real intense on there, and like
he just sort of had a cartoon face.
How much do you want to bet that at some point in like 15, 20 years, Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be cast in a Peter Cushing biopic? Because they got kind of a similar kind of face going on. I think it's a possibility.
Depends on how likely that is to be a film that somebody wants to produce.
I don't know. I guess I don't know. Is there demand out there? Leave us in the leave a comment in the comments.
Oh my goodness!
If you would watch a Peter Cushing biopic,
it's the engagement ask.
I know.
On the D-pad.
There'd be some Star Wars references. That'd be fun to get the rights to. There'd be some Doctor Who references because he was a character named Doctor Who in the unofficial but still licensed ? Doctor Who movies. There were 2.
Yep.
Which I guess they would also need to at this point maybe get permission from Disney for.
Probably.
Disney now
they
has
bought some of that.
Disney, I believe,
rights.
now has at least streaming distribution rights in not any like internationally. I think in the UK, the BBC handles it itself still, but
I could definitely see him being able to do it when he's a little older because he has to lose some of the like.
He's still got a young face.
He needs to get a little more gaunt in the neck and in the space between the chin and the cheekbones. That needs to sink in a little more before he can play Cushing properly.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, no, I think they have.
He would
he
probably
maybe borrowed his skull.
I was gonna say, right? Like they do have a very similar. If anything, weirdly enough, I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch would have to lose a bunch of weight to take what he could off his. Because Peter Cushing had a very like sallow, like man had like it was like cheekbones and the jawbone and like a void in between them after a certain point.
For sure.
Which unfortunately, I'm one of those weirdos who watched. I think Rogue One and was like, ooh, I was actually very impressed by the Peter Cushing CGI-alike thing they did there. I thought it was actually pretty easily one of the best face swap things that I'd seen in a long time.
It was much better done than some of the other ones that they have done in Star Wars.
Yes, in fact, in the same movie, at the very end, you get, oh my god, I've forgotten her name. Leia. Oh, shit.
I'm going to let you hang for a little bit here.
Oh, God. My brain is just yelling Claire over and over again. I'm like,
It's not clear.
No, I know. Oh, my God. I cannot believe that I've... Oh, let me think for a second. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford. Oh, shit. I feel...
The hard C is correct.
Yeah, I know. That's the worst part. I think it's why Claire is in my head because I'm like, I know it's a K, like Carrie Fisher.
That's right.
God damn it. Also, Claire and Carrie, pretty close.
Yes.
Literally, the L is like the biggest part of it that's wrong.
Yeah, and the lack of a second R. And that's
I'm
it.
just talking sound.
Yeah.
But, yes, the Carrie Fisher lookalike.
And the position of the eye.
Yes. The Carrie Fisher CGI-alike thing was like a little haunting at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Whereas...
Struck those uncanny valley vibes pretty hard. Whereas
the
Tarkin.
one for Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin, looked pretty legit. I think the biggest issue, because there were a lot of people who were like, "That's fucked up," and I think it honestly comes down to like it was an okay CGI face, and it's just Peter Cushing had kind of a scary face. It was the whole reason they cast him.
Yeah,
he was a scary looking guy at that point in his life.
He's a severe face. He's a good scowler. That's the whole point. He had to play the Britishy accent villain guy.
Yep. The evil bureaucrat of the Empire was Peter Cushing's general thing there.
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, again, it's like I'm not saying the CGI was like perfect or anything. There were definitely, all of them have issues, but
one of the things that really benefited that shot was they were short. It wasn't long extended shots.
Yeah, it was quick little bits here and there as opposed to Carrie Fisher who like is facing away from the camera then spins around in a really slow
trying to do like a whole ass scene, and they're reconstructing face swaps from scanned frames from Star Wars and
Hope, and it was like, oh boy, that looked rough.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, it could be worse. It could be the CGI shit that happened during the Flash. The Flash movie had its climax famously featured. So basically, you've got two versions of the Flash who are trying to rewrite time so quickly that whole universes are crashing into each other.
Right.
And you peer briefly into each of these universes. So in one of them, you've got a face-alike of the guy who played Jay Garrick in the DC TV show universes.
Okay.
They did a thing where they had the Jay Garrick Flash show up. he was not told that his face was going to be used in this movie, which seems like a massive contractual violation.
It's only not because they hadn't built that into any of the contracts yet, which was what one of the things that the most recent strike was trying to nip for both the writers and the screen actors.
Yep.
SAG-AFTRA strike. Yeah.
And then there was at one point they see George, I'm going to get the name wrong because there's too many that have the same last name. George Reeves, I think, was Superman back in like the black and white era, and he has a From Beyond cameo as Superman. Because there's also Christopher.
George?
There's also Christopher. Well, so there's Christopher Reeve, who was like the original film Superman for four movies.
Yeah.
But before that was George Reeves. And I think he was like the 1950s, 1960s era Superman TV show Superman.
Okay.
But they have Christopher Reeve version of Superman as well as
Gotta
Supergirl.
love recolor.
Oh yeah.
On old film, it has a very distinctive look to it.
Yes. It like ironic, and I think it's just the association of that with it being old photographs all the time. But I see something with that coloration, my brain goes, "Oh, they're dead." it just fills that blank in where it's like
they're probably dead. Yep.
Hard to not. The only people who aren't are like 80, 90 years old at this point. So.
Right. Oh, that looks like a black and white photo where the colors were deduced later.
Yeah, exactly. There are ways to mathematically figure it out at this point, like
which gray was from what color. Yeah.
Yep. Because I believe for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, they released. I don't know if it came out yet. I think it did, but they were planning to release a fully colorized version of the first episode of the show.
Oh, interesting.
Complete with the original audio restored and stuff too. And like they put some serious legwork in to like make that happen. It's like, all right.
It's nice that they have the archival content to be able to do that.
For that one, yes, because famously Doctor Who did not give a shit about archiving its stuff for like a good 6 seasons.
Sure. I mean,
there are still lost episodes.
It was what? Like a sci-fi soap opera, basically.
Yeah. They had no reason to think that it was going to be all that popular. And then somewhere around the time where they were producing color episodes and they were on their third iteration of, oh yeah, hey, shiny.
Second shiny, same species.
Yeah, second shiny Luxio in our field of view. I think, did I just catch it like that? Whoop. And at this point, I throw a Pokemon. I'm like, nope, you're not running away. Not that I needed another gold one, but I'm happy to have it.
Hey, you know what? Every shiny that you can get,
right?
Might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You have had such a dry spell in your whole career.
I know. This game
your
really
whole
does.
Channel career.
Allegedly, the numbers are still the same for this game, but I honestly don't believe that.
I mean, the rate might be the same, but just the sheer number of Pokemon that are spawned into the map.
I suppose. But then, with Scarlet and Violet, I went for like 100 hours of game before I actually saw a shiny in the second DLC.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to think if I don't think I have a shiny in Scarlet in Scarlet at all.
Yeah, I've just got the one. It was a starter, which is cool. So I have my like charcoal black Charizard, which is pretty fucking
nice.
rad.
That was one of my favorites when they don't count. I have so many shinies in Pokemon Go, which I haven't opened in forever.
Pokemon
but that was
Go.
One of my favorites was to see what that shiny looks like.
Yeah, because I really don't know for most of them. Even Gen 1 and 2, a lot of the time I'm kind of guessing, even though like Gen 2 is where that shit got started and you had your best chance of running into that. It's like, it was already too much for 250 Pokemon. It's definitely too many to keep track of after we're past 1,000.
Right.
It is also kind of...
Well, and it changes from game to game somewhat.
A little bit, yeah. And also this game, and Scarlet and Violet even more so, have like lighting issues where the lighting that they do is both not consistent and can radically alter the look of a, like, so Bergmite, for example.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's semi-transparent. It's supposed to be mostly made of ice.
Yep.
I cannot tell you how many times I've looked at one because it looks blue because it's near snow, and the refraction of its back makes it look bluer at night on the snow. And it's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They need to add the little bring in the other games. It needs to happen. It's so hard to tell.
Right. No, it's very appreciated in this game.
or make it an item that makes it easier to tell. Like, I'm actually surprised in Scarlet Violet they
like
have
a shiny scope or something. Yeah,
they have the camera add-on that lets you see your data like you can in this game of like what some basic stuff about the Pokemon, but it still won't tell you if it's shiny, and it's like, why? That would be the most obvious thing in the world, especially if you already have one.
Yeah,
the technology of the game should be able to be like, oh yeah, this doesn't look like the one that you have. That's weird.
Right, your in-game tech should recognize that, and it should just be a thing that it flags.
Yeah.
Because, like, oh, this doesn't match with your Pokédex data on this feature.
My dream would one day be, like, this is flat out, this will never happen. This is not me expecting them to do it. It's not me being mad that they don't do it. If I was Mr. Pokemon in charge of the Pokemon games...
Yeah.
I was about to say his name, and then I forgot it. Satoshi... let's say... Tajiri, maybe? But I don't even know if he's in charge of that stuff anymore. But if I was in charge of it, I would love to see a thing where when you see the Pokemon, either in battle or out in the overworld, maybe it doesn't automatically make a shiny noise. But the moment, if you've got it in your Pokedex, this would all be reliant on it being in your Pokedex. Because if you don't, why would your character know for sure that that's shiny?
That's the shiny coloration?
So it's like, all right, if you've never caught one, if you've never seen one, then sure, no bonus to that at all. But if you've caught one especially, the moment something... the spawn of Alpha Abomasnow is like, oh, we're leaving now.
Goodbye.
Just a bunch of, hey, buddy, just gallivanting over. But yeah, the first... Like, essentially, when you see something, when you / the camera sees a part of the Pokemon that would make it clear that it is a shiny... then it should have a little bring, like, kind of note it. So for, like, most Pokemon, that would happen more or less right away. You see a Charizard, and then, oh, there's a black Charizard. It's like, oh, bring, this one's obviously different.
Yeah.
But there's some Pokemon where that's not always the case. So, like, a Minior, for example, you can't tell it's shiny until it cracks open. So maybe it acts normal, and then you crack it open, and it goes bring as you see I think it's a black color core is the shiny one.
Okay.
Or, like, I think there's one that's, like, if you walk up to a Jigglypuff, I think Jigglypuff is one where you can't tell unless you see its eyes, because it has red eyes if it's a shiny.
Oh.
But otherwise, it's got that, like, teal aquamarine kind of color.
Is it, like, albino?
I don't know, but I believe the color of the overall
the
Jigglypuff
body remains
doesn't change.
Just the same tone of pink.
Yeah, there's a few Pokemon where the eye color is the only difference, and it's like, man. But also, it's like, okay, if I see a Jigglypuff from behind, don't make that the notification. But the second I'm able to get around and spot the eye, do the bring, like make that be the. It honestly would make it kind of. It would incentivize them to make interesting versions of shinies.
Sure.
Because then it could be like, oh yeah, a shiny Yamask is hard to tell, but on the back side of the mask, it's green instead of that like pale amber color or something.
But that sounds like very processor intensive.
Yes, that's why it's never going to happen. It is to be fair to the Pokemon Company. That one's a big ask. That'd be hard for like a legit like AAA company to like justify putting in, even with a lot more time and money behind it.
Yeah.
So like I'm not expecting that. It'd be cool if they did. The Pokemon Company, Game Freak. I know you guys watch these videos
for sure.
So that one you can have for free. You don't even have to thank me. It's fine. Just take it. Just do it.
You can credit me.
Okay, yeah, you can credit Peter. Don't worry about me. But Peter should be in there under the special thanks section. Unless you get hired by them to also work on it, then you probably would want to be under the shiny engine developer section.
Yeah.
Why's he got gum in his shoes?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was he walked over
weird
like
walking sound.
He sounded like a Kirby or something. Oh man. That'll have to be when I make my Pokemon fan game. That'll be a thing in there. I'll definitely be able to figure out how that works.
Sure.
It'll be super good.
That'll definitely not just crash your game all the time.
Yeah. There probably actually would be a way to like take whatever the part of the Pokemon that matters for that.
Yeah.
And essentially check, because there's extremely involved ways to check what face, like what direction a face of things is pointed.
Yep.
And all you would have to do is essentially look to see if it's moving in, what would that be, the negative Y direction, I think, is towards the camera. Because I think X is usually left and right. I mean, it's space. You can orient it however you want, but I think traditionally X is left to right. For 3D gaming stuff, I think Y is usually front to back and Z is up and down these days. I may have that wrong.
I mean, Z is definitely the up-down.
Yeah.
And then XY is...
Like negative Y is in and positive Y is like away from you to the distance, whereas X and Y is laterally to the camera.
I mean, the real question is, what are you using? What is static? Is it your map that has unmoving coordinates and your camera moves around in that world?
I think that's usually the idea.
So
but also some games
you
do
just
it the
need
other way.
to see what the sign of the vector is when you add them.
Exactly. Yeah. Put that together and go. Okay, what is the
negative is towards and positive is away?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep. Like y less than equal to 0, and then congratulations, because that would inherently mean that some piece of it is facing just a little bit towards the camera.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too terrible, but it would mean.
And hell, if you wanted to...
active checks involved in some phase of the engine.
Yeah. If you wanted to, you could also have it be that, like, it's not just once it hits the 0 plane, because you're not going to know when it hits 0 that is the case. But, like, okay, the Y is, like... Or you measure your cosine of X to Y on that vector.
Yeah.
And once essentially more than, like, 5 degrees or 10 degrees, it's like, okay, the player has the ability to see and recognize this now or something.
Yeah, that would make sense.
You know? Most Pokemon, it wouldn't matter because they're just different colors. So it'd be an instant, but like...
One of my biggest lessons learned in game dev was from a failure in a small piece of code that I wrote for a project, where you have to be very careful about how you do that kind of math in an engine. Because some engines...
If there's a video that goes with this, I think I've seen. It's the one that's got the set of pillars.
I don't know that there is a video of this that accurately describes what's going on. But
okay.
So the game project that I was working on was in the C4 engine, which I'm not allowed to tell you about. Other than that, I know about the C4 engine.
Dun dun dun.
I signed an NDA.
Yeah.
But what must be going on internally is that it has to recalculate the position and movement vectors if you switch which kind of math you're using.
Oh boy. Like, are we talking like Cartesian versus radial, or
basically, yeah.
Okay.
So the engine had two different ways to make physics calls on objects.
Okay. All right. I see.
And I used a little bit from each column.
Yeah.
On what was supposed to be a background piece of animation, basically. It was part of the environmental feel of the world. It was just a cloud of procedurally flying themselves around lightning bugs. They were the lighting for the game.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And they were floating around, and I had built a flocking AI for
mechanism
them
to have them
to try and keep the light dispersed and to have them sort of turn in naturally and sort of drift around somewhat so that it felt realistic, realism in the environment to some extent while you're walking around under giant blades of grass and mushrooms and whatnot.
Alrighty.
But every time that every single one of them needed to make an update to its position, which happened for every visual frame being drawn.
Yep.
For all 100 of the bugs.
Yeah.
That subroutine was called, and that subroutine that I wrote used the different maths like 4 times. So internally the engine was doing
a lot of math.
300 internal conversions every frame.
Yeah.
In addition to the calculations I was requesting.
I think that's why a lot of times for stuff like that, for like fish, bugs, anything that has like a
and I didn't
slow roaming thing,
way late.
Yeah, they'll essentially calculate like a small, like a second or two's worth of that in one go, so that it like way less at a time.
Yeah.
The one that I saw was someone had 2 pillars, like sets of pillars.
Yep.
And they moved forward, and some pillars moved closer, and some moved further away, and they were like, "This is very wrong."
That's interesting.
But also, we're about to sign off from the game, and I'm looking at the timer on there, so we'll have to come back next time, and we will actually be back to real commentary.
Oh my goodness!
See you later. Bye.
Bye.